The most powerful moments happen in silence. When negotiations unfold without words. When you're alone, and your mind keeps processing incoming signals. The painting nearby becomes part of that stream. It's like an unseen companion, a reference point for the scale of your ideas. You look at it, and you see whether your thoughts can meet the standard it sets. This matters most when you're thinking about the future, about strategy, about decisions with a long horizon. In that moment, you're not just reflecting. You're entering a dialogue with something greater. And if the image on the wall is tied to civilization, to the idea of time, to architectural logic, your inner conversation starts to rest on those same foundations. This isn't magic. It's the architecture of thought. The painting stops being an object. It becomes a space. A space where you shape yourself. A field where nothing can be left to chance. And suddenly, you're not alone in the room. You're inside a context you've built for yourself. The painting isn't mere decor. It's the scenography of your decisions. And if it's chosen with precision, it doesn't just adorn. It helps you think. A work of art is not an answer, it's a question that lingers in the air. It doesn't instruct, it sets the terms for a conversation. If a complex, multi-layered piece hangs in your office, it shapes the architecture of your thoughts. You step into the room, sit at your desk, and beside you isn't just furniture or tech, it's an image woven with order, time, and scale. Even without looking directly at it, you begin to calibrate your thinking to its structure. An unspoken context emerges. You're not starting from a blank slate, you're already within a framework of meaning. And that changes the flow of your inner dialogue. Where there was once haste, a pause appears. Where there was aggression, precision takes root. Not because the artwork pressures or preaches, but because it simply is. Its presence alone displaces the noise of frenzy. When you're in a crucial conversation with a partner, it doesn't speak for you. But it creates a space where petty words feel out of place. And when you're alone, it becomes a mirror for your intentions. You start measuring your ideas not just against logic or emotion, but against something broader, more spatial. It's like a silent advisor, one you keep glancing at without a word. A painting as a field of negotiation. Even if you're alone in the room. At first glance, that sounds far-fetched. How can a work of art, hanging on the wall, take part in a negotiation? Especially when there's no one else in the room but you. A painting seems static. It just is. It decorates. It might be beautiful, trendy, expensive, or strange, but speaking. Influencing the flow of your inner dialogue. That feels like a stretch. We tend to think linearly, there's you, there's the task, there's the outside world. But even when you're alone, you're still negotiating, with yourself, with future conversations, with past moments. And if you're surrounded only by functional objects, your thoughts follow a certain logic. But if there's an artistic image nearby, one with complexity, depth, intention, your inner voice shifts. It becomes more layered. Because a good artistic image isn't just a picture. It's a statement that never stops speaking. It sparks new meanings every day. And when it's there, it becomes the backdrop against which you hear your thoughts differently. This isn't mysticism. It's optics. You look through the structure of the painting, and you hear yourself in a new way. A painting infused with architectural logic acts as a mirror of the future. It doesn't provide answers, it shapes the way you think. This isn't about beauty, it's about the way order works. And that's its greatest strength. It doesn't demand engagement or beg for attention, it simply hangs there. Yet day after day, week after week, it becomes the backdrop to your decisions. You can't think the way you used to anymore. You start demanding greater clarity from yourself. You tolerate chaos less, instinctively gravitating toward structure. And most importantly, you stop expecting life to hand you a storyline, you begin designing it yourself. This happens even when you're not directly looking at the painting. It's like an interface embedded in your field of vision. It guides you gently but profoundly. In the end, you're not just the owner of a painting, you're the owner of an architectural model. And with that model, you start building everything around you. From your speech to your projects. From your decisions to your environment. That's how images encoded with the logic of cities, eras, and empires work. They don't just decorate. They shape the people who choose them. The owner of a painting imbued with architectural logic isn't just a collector of beauty, they're a user of models. They intuitively grasp that space isn't a backdrop, it's a tool. That form shapes behavior. That the way a city, a company, or even a home is designed dictates how people live, work, and decide within it. Constant exposure to this visual code sharpens their ability to see systems where others see only chaos. And it's this skill, knowing where things belong, where the center lies, where the axis runs, where the boundaries hold, that transforms their thinking from merely strategic to precise. It shows up in the everyday, in how they organize their workspace, lead meetings, or structure projects. Architectural logic isn't about the aesthetics of stone or columns. It's about how you build your influence. How you plan years ahead, not swayed by the emotions of the fleeting week. They may not proclaim it aloud, but the space they inhabit and work in speaks for them. They think like a builder of systems. And every guest senses it, even if they can't quite explain why. What's in the mind of someone who has a map of Rome on their wall instead of an abstract painting? At first glance, it's just a matter of taste. One person loves vibrant colors and swirling lines, another craves precision, detail, and structure. But look closer, and it's not about taste, it's about how their mind works. Abstraction often serves as an escape. It doesn't demand effort from the viewer. Its goal is to evoke a feeling, stir an emotion, set a mood. That can be pleasant, relaxing, even profound. But its vagueness leaves the viewer as a passive consumer. They feel, but they don't think. Now picture someone who gazes daily at a map of ancient Rome, with its clear composition, historical weight, and urban logic. That's no mere picture. It's a model of the world. They're not just looking, they're decoding. In that moment, their brain fires up different pathways, not emotional, but analytical. It's the difference between background noise and a blueprint. One lulls you, the other shapes you. And when you're surrounded day after day by structures rooted in real power and architectural logic, you start, without even noticing, building your own thoughts along those same lines. A painting works like a tie you can't take off. In everyday clothes, you can stay neutral, jeans, a t-shirt, a simple blazer. But the wall behind you, especially in your office, on Zoom, in a meeting, it's always making a statement. It's bold, commanding, almost inescapable. And if you don't control it, it controls you. It's easy to fall into a trap here, hanging something pretty, something that fits the color scheme, or something the designer liked. But those choices aren't just random, they signal randomness as your standard. And someone who thinks strategically cannot afford to be random in anything. A good painting doesn't have to be expensive. It has to align with your logic, your mindset. If you're a strategist, it should reflect systems, structure, clarity. If you're a visionary, it should project a glimpse of the future, not a relic of the past. If you carry weight, the painting should convey that gravitas, not through gold or ornament, but through structure, idea, substance. This is why choosing the right piece for your wall is so hard. It's not about taste, it's about meaning. It has to be you. Even when you've left the room. And here's where the important part begins, when you start using art as a tool. Not just an object, not a decoration, not a byproduct of a renovation, but a deliberate field. You're not just dressing up a space, you're crafting a cloud of meaning, a space where your image lives. In this sense, art becomes part of your public architecture. Just like your speech, your story, your business. A well-chosen painting doesn't just complement, it amplifies. It's like a powerful metaphor. It explains nothing directly, but it creates an atmosphere where explanations aren't needed. People walk in and feel it. They may not always pinpoint why they feel respect or trust, but that feeling works. The painting starts to protect you, not like a shield, but like a field. It makes the complex simple. The invisible, visible. Because a painting is always more than just an image. It's context. And context, as we know, shapes perception. So, the question, what does your wall say, isn't about taste. It's about your strategy. In today's world, silence isn't quiet. Silence is a message. And you decide what that message will be. What does your wall say about you? It almost sounds absurd, like we're giving too much weight to objects in our space. Can a painting on the wall really say more than you do? Don't your guests, partners, or colleagues hear your words, see how you carry yourself? At first glance, sure, it's all about how you present yourself. But reality works differently. We live in a world of snap judgments. At a meeting, during negotiations, or over a business lunch, everything gets noticed, from the quality of your chair to the scent of the coffee. People pick up on the background, even if they don't realize it. The space you inhabit speaks for you before you even open your mouth. And visual elements? They're especially loud. A painting on the wall, it's a silent statement. It hits fast, almost instinctively. You might be witty, eloquent, seasoned, but if there's something random hanging behind you, that randomness speaks volumes. Not out loud. In feeling. A painting isn't just about taste. It's a marker of your inner logic. A signal of what you align with. And in today's world, where choices overwhelm and attention is scarce, that signal becomes your silent portrait. Story 4, The Problem Isn't the Building, Renovation in San Lorenzo and $1 million mistake. He was certain he had it all figured out. An architect from Northern Europe, with a flawless portfolio, awards stacked up, Excel sheets down to the decimal, and a team that calculated every detail. He arrived in Rome to lead the renovation of an old complex on the edge of San Lorenzo, former barracks they wanted to transform into an art cluster, a new community hub, a beacon of progress and energy. The funding came from the EU, the deadlines were brutal, and the pressure was unrelenting. Trouble started right away. Local activists were upset, neighbors grumbled about the noise, historians protested the demolition of original walls. But the real issue? The project just wasn't coming together. Something about it didn't feel alive. It was correct. But lifeless. Like the building itself was pushing back. One evening, after another round of fruitless debates, he stayed behind at the site, alone. His phone was at 3% battery. In the background, a rusted hangar, shadows from streetlights, graffiti scrawled on the walls. He sat on a crate and pulled out a pencil. Not to work. Just to think. He started sketching, not facades or cross-sections, but people. How they'd walk in. How they'd glance around. How they'd sip coffee by a wall. He drew a boy kicking a ball across the gravel. A woman leaning against a column, waiting for someone. As he drew, it hit him, something simple. He'd been designing a building, but not a life. This place. It was alive. Rough. Unpolished. Real. It didn't need reconstruction. It needed to be listened to. The next day, he scrapped everything. The old renders, the presentation, the model. He brought the curators a stack of his late-night sketches and said, "Let's start here. With the human." At first, they thought he'd lost it. Then, they called him indecisive. Later, just plain weird. But that approach? It became the heart of the project. Now, his studio gets invited back to Italy, not for their style, but for their ability to feel a place. Not through pixels, but through the hand. Through a sketch. Through silence. Check out lessons on Italian sketching techniques and quick drawing in the profile and video description. Eduard Kichigin.